Without it, the whole project falls apart. Margot's story hit the front page Tuesday morning. Questionable HOA tactics target historic farm. By noon my phone wouldn't stop ringing. They fined me $800 for planting wildflowers instead of their approved grass, said Eleanor, a white-haired woman in her 70s who'd bought one of the first homes in the estates. When I fought back, my car vanished from my driveway, towed for improper parking. On my own property. Eleanor wasn't alone. By sundown my living room held 7 neighbors, all with similar stories. Judith cited me for my bird feeder being 2 in taller than regulations allow, said Henry, a retired teacher. Then my garbage mysteriously didn't get picked up for 3 weeks. My fence was suddenly the wrong shade of brown, added Rachel, a young mother bouncing a baby on her hip. The paint had been pre-approved when I showed the paperwork. Judith said the board had updated aesthetic standards and I'd have to repaint or pay $50 a day in fines. Most shocking was Marco, who actually served on the HOA board. I started asking questions about the budget last month. He whispered, next thing I know, Tyler suggesting I have conflicts of interest and should resign. We formed the Willow Creek Property Rights Alliance that night. Eleanor's grandson Jackson, a second-year law student, offered to review our documents. This is ridiculous, he said, flipping through the HOA bylaws. Half these rules would never hold up in court, and the way they formed the association violated at least 6 procedural requirements. Hope flickered to life, but one problem remained unsolved. My animals were still gone, racking up boarding fees. I couldn't afford nights without Rusty's warm weight against my leg. Felt endless. The following day, I emptied my savings account and drove to the county animal facility. The clerk's eyes widened at the stack of bills I placed on the counter. All of it. I said, I'm taking them all home. Watching Biscuit's arthritic trot as they loaded him into a borrowed trailer broke something inside me. His coat had dulled after just a week away. A sympathetic farmer 20 m away offered temporary shelter. They can stay until you sort this mess out, he said, helping unload my frightened chickens. These HOA people sound like vultures back home. I joined an emergency alliance meeting in Eleanor's garage. Jackson had discovered the county rezoning lacked a required environmental impact study. Water drainage from their proposed lake would affect protected wetlands downstream, he explained, spreading maps across a workbench. We can file for an emergency injunction on these grounds alone. Our spirits lifted with 32 families now involved and legal footing to stand on. We weren't just angry homeowners anymore, we were organized. Rachel's husband, a website designer, built us a web page documenting every HOA violation, and over Henry started a petition that gathered hundreds of signatures. Eleanor's gardening club friends conducted a citizen environmental survey documenting the threatened wildlife on the proposed lake site. Margot prepared a follow-up story exposing Commissioner Phillips' golf club membership paid for by Tyler Mercer's company. Victory felt possible for the first time. Then disaster struck. I arrived home to find my front door ajar. Inside, my papers were gone, every document, map, and letter missing. On the kitchen table lay a single notice: foreclosure proceedings initiated, unpaid property taxes. But I had receipts proving I'd paid those taxes, receipts that were now missing. My phone rang. Eleanor's panicked voice came through. Someone leaked everything. Judith just sent an HOA-wide email addressing our baseless conspiracy theories point by point. She knows all our plans. Before I could respond, headlights swept across my windows. 3 black SUVs pulled into my driveway, doors opening in unison. The county sheriff stepped out first, followed by Judith, a perfect bob haircut, unmoved by the evening breeze. Behind her stood Tyler Mercer, a satisfied smile spreading across his face as he clutched a folder stamped with a county seal. My hands shook as I stared at the foreclosure notice. They were trying to steal my home now. I ripped the paper down and slammed my door so hard the windows rattled. No more playing nice. I called Margot immediately. They're coming after my house, I said, voice cracking. I have proof I paid those taxes. This is exactly what we needed, Margot replied. Surprising me, we've got them on paper. Committing fraud. Now meet me at the coffee shop in 20 minutes. Margot arrived with her laptop and a gleam in her eye. Breaking news, she said, turning her screen toward me. The headline made my jaw drop. Willow Creek corruption, HOA president and county officials linked to land grab scheme. Her investigation had uncovered dozens of text messages between Commissioner Phillips, the county clerk, and the Mercers. They had been planning this takeover for over a year, targeting not just me but 5 other long-time property owners whose land they wanted. Your tax receipts prove they falsified county records, Margot explained. That's a felony. My phone buzzed with call after call as the story spread. Neighbors I'd never met offered support. 3 different lawyers contacted me wanting to help, but the most shocking call came from a number I didn't recognize. Miss Harper, this is Harold Jenkins. I live next door to the Mercers, said a nervous voice. I've been recording their HOA meetings for months. They've been planning this whole thing in secret sessions after the regular meetings end. I gripped my phone tighter. Do you have proof? Better than proof, he whispered. I have Judith on tape saying they'd use whatever means necessary to force the old farm lady out, and Tyler laughing about how they'd make a fortune once we get that eyesore farm resin for luxury homes. I met Harold that afternoon in the back of the library. He was a thin, nervous man who kept looking over his shoulder. My wife and I bought our retirement home here because we loved the country feel, he explained. Then the Mercers took over the HOA and turned it into a dictatorship. They fined us 3 times for bird feeders. Harold's recordings were damning. In one, Judith clearly stated Commissioner Phillips guaranteed he can push through whatever paperwork we need. He owes Tyler for that lake house deal last year. By evening, our newly formed Willow Creek Property Rights Alliance had grown to 37 members, including 23 homeowners from inside the estates who were fed up with the Mercers' iron rule. Eleanor's grandson Jason had just finished his 2nd year of law school but already knew enough to be dangerous. They violated at least 7 procedural requirements in forming the HOA, he explained to our group, and the environmental impact assessment for the rezoning. It never happened, though they filed paperwork claiming it did. Jason helped us find 2 experienced attorneys who took our case pro bono. This kind of corruption makes all lawyers look bad. One said, we're filing for an emergency injunction first thing tomorrow. While the legal battle began, I emptied my savings and took out a loan to pay the ransom for my animals. The county shelter was charging daily boarding fees that kept growing. When I finally arrived with the money, the shelter manager looked embarrassed. I'm sorry about this whole mess, he whispered. Those animals were clearly well cared for. This isn't right. Bringing my animals to a friend's farm 30 m away felt bittersweet. I couldn't take them home yet, but at least they were out of the shelter. Work. They left reluctantly, but as they drove away, I noticed Judith watching from her car parked down the street. She was taking notes, probably documenting more violations. I needed help. I called my old high school friend Emma, who worked at the local newspaper. Emma, you won't believe what's happening. I explained everything while pacing my kitchen. Sarah, this sounds seriously fishy, she said. Fast-tracked rezoning campaign donation, no proper notification. Mind if I poke around? This might be bigger than just your farm. That evening, a knock at my door revealed an elderly woman I'd never met. I'm Eleanor Jenkins. I live in the new development, she said nervously. I saw what they did to your animals. It's not right. I invited her in, surprised. I bought my house last year because the sales brochure promised pastoral views overlooking established farmland. Eleanor explained your farm was actually a selling point. Then last month they elected Judith as HOA president in a meeting. Half the residents weren't even notified about. Wait, they used my farm to sell houses, and now they want to get rid of it. I couldn't believe the nerve. There's more. Eleanor lowered her voice. They've raised our HOA fees twice already. Anyone who complains gets targeted with violation notices. And yesterday at the GR store, I overheard Tyler Mercer talking about phase 2 of development luxury homes where your property sits. A cold realization washed over me. They're not just harassing me about rules, they want my land. Later that night, I spread everything out on my kitchen table. County documents, HOA notices, property maps. The pattern became clear. Tyler Mercer's company had systematically purchased all land surrounding my farm, developed it, created an HOA they controlled, and were now using that power to force me to sell. I was figuring out next steps when headlights swept across my window. A truck was pulling up outside. Peering through the curtains, I saw Tyler Mercer himself stepping out with another man I didn't recognize. They walked the perimeter of my property, pointing and discussing something while looking at papers. I grabbed my phone and quietly filmed them from different windows as they trespassed around my barn and outbuildings. When they reached my storage shed, Tyler tried the door handle. Furious, I flipped on the outdoor lights and opened the window. This is private property, leave immediately, or I'm calling the sheriff. They jumped, clearly startled at being caught just conducting a routine inspection. Tyler called back smoothly. HOA bylaws permit property evaluations at 11 p.m. without notice. I don't think so, I replied, holding up my phone. I've recorded everything, now get off my land before I press charges for trespassing. The men retreated to their truck, but Tyler paused before getting in. You can't win this, Sarah. We've invested millions in Willow Creek Estates. The county commissioners are on our side. Your little farm is just a speed bump in our development plan. After they left, I reviewed the video I'd captured, feeling a chill when I noticed what they were carrying, not just new papers, but what looked like preliminary construction plans with my property outlined in red. I locked all my doors, suddenly feeling vulnerable on the land that had always been my sanctuary. How far would these people go to get what they wanted? And who else might be involved in their scheme? My hands shook as I watched the taillights of the animal control van disappear down my driveway. They took everything, my chickens, goats, even sweet old Biscuit, who'd been with me for 12 years. I collapsed onto my porch steps, clutching Judith's bill for $4,500 in violations. They can't just do this, I whispered to myself, wiping away tears. But doubt crept in. Maybe they could sleep. Didn't come that night. Instead, I pulled out every piece of mail the HOA had sent over the past months. Something felt wrong. The rezoning notice was dated only 3 weeks ago. Yet Judith claimed it was already final and binding. At first light, I drove to the County Records Office. The clerk raised her eyebrows when I asked about my property. That's odd, she said, pulling up my file. Your land was fast-tracked for rezoning last month. Usually takes 6 months, and requires multiple public hearings. My stomach nodded. Who requested the rezoning? She turned the screen. Commissioner Phillips signed off on the emergency order. The name hit me like a punch. Commissioner Phillips, who my neighbor said played golf every Sunday with Tyler Mercer, Judith's husband. I asked for copies of everything while the clerk printed documents. I noticed a glossy brochure for the estates at Willow Creek on the counter. I flipped through it, stopping cold at a map of the development. My property sat right in the middle, marked as future Phase 2 premium Lakeview lots. But there was no lake on my property, ma'am. I asked the clerk, does this development have permits for a man-made lake? She typed briefly, yes, approved last month. Alongside the rezoning, construction begins in 60 days. 60 days, the exact time frame Judith had given me to meet HOA standards. I rushed home and spread everything across my kitchen table. The pieces fit together like a sick puzzle. Tyler Mercer's development company had bought all the land around me at suspiciously low prices. Their fancy houses were selling for triple what they paid, all advertising exclusive countryside views that faced my farm. But the real money would come from Phase 2 once they built their artificial lake right where my house stood. Those waterfront properties would be worth millions. My hands trembled as I studied the HOA bylaws. They'd sent page 43 in tiny print. Properties failing to meet standards after 60 days of notification may be subject to community acquisition through eminent domain proceedings. They weren't trying to make me join their HOA, they were trying to force me out. The animal seizure wasn't about violations, it was about breaking me financially. I made 3 calls that night, first to the bank where I learned my mortgage suddenly had a disputed title flag, second to the tax assessor discovering my property taxes had mysteriously doubled, third to my insurance company informing me my policy was under review due to agricultural use in a residential zone. They were attacking from every angle. I sat on my empty porch where Rusty should have been sleeping beside me. My family had owned this land for generations. My grandfather had taught me to ride horses in the very field where Judith now wanted to build vacation homes. I nearly jumped when my phone pinged with an email notification. Interested in your story. Do you have documentation? Margot Rivera, Invest Instigative reporter. I'd almost forgotten about the tip I'd sent to the local paper. My fingers hovered over the reply button. If I fought back, what else would they take from me? But if I didn't? A car slowed on the road. Through the darkness I recognized Judith's SUV. She wasn't driving past, she was stopping, taking photos of my property, planning her next move. That decided it. I hit reply and began typing. I have everything, anything you need. When can we meet? My kitchen table disappeared under stacks of documents as Margot fired questions at me. Her fingers flew across her laptop keyboard, pausing only to push her glasses back up her nose. This is bigger than I thought, she said, pointing to the HOA formation papers. Look at these signatures. Half of them are from people who don't even own property in the development. Yet I passed her the zoning maps. They need my land for their lake. They towed my rescue animals and slapped me with a $4,500 fine, all because I wouldn't join their precious HOA. But they never expected a small farmer like me to expose their entire corrupt operation. What would you do if a power-hungry neighbor tried to steal the land your family has owned for generations? Comment below where you're watching from. I sprinted across my muddy yard in pajamas when I heard Biscuit, my miniature pony, making scared noises. A huge tow truck with county enforcement painted on the side was backing up to my barn at 7 a.m. Who shows up at someone's farm this early? Hey, stop right there. What do you think you're doing? I yelled, nearly slipping as I rushed toward them. 3 people in matching navy polos turned around. The woman in front had perfect hair, even though it was windy, and carried a clipboard like it was a weapon. You must be Sarah Harper, she said, looking at my chicken print pajama pants like they were garbage. I'm Judith Mercer, president of Willow Creek Estates Homeowners Association. You've ignored our notices for 3 months now. I blinked in confusion. What notices? And what homeowners association? I don't belong to any HO. My family has owned this farm for over 40 years. Judith's fake smile didn't reach her eyes. The county rezoned this entire area last quarter. Your property is now officially part of our community, which means you must follow our rules. She handed me a thick envelope. This is your final warning regarding unauthorized livestock. My stomach dropped as I opened it. Inside was a bill for $2,300 in back does and a notice that all farm animals must be removed immediately. This is ridiculous. You can't just decide my farm belongs to your fancy neighborhood. I was here first. I clutched the papers, noticing my hands were shaking. Actually, a tall man in an expensive suit stepped forward from behind the tow truck. I'm Tyler Mercer, Willow Creek Development LLC. The county commissioners approved our petition to incorporate all properties Within these boundaries, he unfolded a map showing my 5 acres completely surrounded by their new development. I realized my farm was now an island in a sea of cookie-cutter houses that had sprung up over the last year, houses that wanted nothing to do with the sight or smell of actual farm animals. Look, Miss Harper, Judith said, checking her diamond-crusted watch, we've given you ample time to comply. Your grandfather clause expired when district lines were redrawn today. We authorized to remove all non-compliant animals. 2 men in work uniforms approached my barn where my 6 rescue chickens, 3 goats, and 2 miniature ponies had lived peacefully for years. My dog Rusty started barking wildly. Sense something was wrong. You can't take my animals. That's stealing. I blocked the barn door with my body. It's not stealing, it's enforcement. Judith handed me an official look document with a county seal. This order authorizes removal of prohibited livestock. You can retrieve them from the county facility after paying your outstanding HOA violations. I quickly scanned the paper, panic rising in my chest. It looked real, signed by Commissioner Phillips. How could this be happening? I'm calling the sheriff, I said, pulling out my phone with trembling fingers. Go ahead, Tyler smirked. The sheriff's department is aware of today's enforcement action. 20 minutes later, Sheriff Jenkins arrived. I explained the situation, expecting him to stop this madness. Instead, he looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Sarah, but their paperwork appears in order. The county did residential own this area. He lowered his voice. Nothing I can do officially right now. Couldn't believe my ears. Tom, you've known me since high school. These animals are my life. Get proper legal advice, he whispered before walking back to his car. Meanwhile, the workers had already loaded my terrified chickens into cages. My oldest goat Mabel bleated in fear as they pulled her from the barn. Stop, at least let me help so they're not scared, I begged, tears streaming down my face. Judith checked items off her clipboard, unmoved by my distress. You have 30 days to bring your property into compliance with HOA standards. That includes removing that eyesore of a barn, painting your house an approved color, and installing proper landscaping. When they reached for Biscuit, my 17-year-old rescue pony with arthritis, I lost it. He's too old to be moved like this, please. He needs special care. Rules are rules, Judith replied coldly. I watched helplessly as they loaded my beloved animals into vehicles. Neighbors from the new houses gathered on their perfect lawns to stare. Not one offered to help before driving away. Judith handed me another paper. Your total violations come to $4,500. Pay within 2 weeks, or we'll place a lien on your property. As the trucks disappeared down my driveway with my frightened animals, I noticed Tyler taking photos of my property from different angles. Something about his satisfied expression made my blood run cold. What weren't they telling me about their real plans for my family's farm? Couldn't sleep that night. My empty barn echoed with silence where animal sounds should have been. My dog Rusty kept searching the property, confused about where his friends had gone. I stayed up researching online, trying to understand how this could possibly be legal. At sunrise, I drove to the county animal facility, a cold concrete building with chain-link kennels. The smell of bleach burned my nose as I approached the front desk. I'm here about the farm animals brought in yesterday from Willow Creek, I explained to the bored-looking clerk. She typed something into her computer. Harper animals. Yes, we have them. Release fee is $4,500 plus $75 per day. Boarding charges $4,000, $500. My voice cracked. That's my entire emergency savings. Can I at least see them? The clerk pointed to a viewing area. My heart broke seeing my animals in tiny pens meant for dogs and cats. Biscuit couldn't even turn around properly in his space. Mabel kept calling out with frightened bleat. They need proper housing. These are farm animals. I protested. Not my department. She shrugged. They'll be put up for adoption in 14 days. If fees aren't paid. I left the building shaking with anger. They were counting on me not having enough money. This wasn't about rules, it was about forcing me out. Instead of going home, I drove straight to the county records office. The clerk looked surprised when I requested all rezoning documentation for Willow Creek from the past year. That's quite a lot of paperwork. She warned. I've got time, I replied, settling in at a table. 3 hours later, I found something strange. The rezoning petition had been submitted just 6 months ago, but all resident notifications were dated only 3 weeks back, far too late for proper community input. Even more suspicious, Commissioner Phillips had fast-tracked the approval despite environmental concerns raised by county staff. I photographed everything with my phone, then headed to the library to use their computer. A quick search revealed that Commissioner Phillips had received large campaign donations from Yow Creek Development LLC, Tyler Mercer's company back home. I nearly crashed into a landscaping truck parked in my driveway. 3 workers were measuring my front yard. What are you doing on my property? I demanded. A worker handed me a paper. HOA pre-approved landscaping assessment says here your non-compliant vegetation needs removal. I snatched the paper. Get off my land right now. I haven't authorized any A biscuit. My arthritic pony nuzzled my neck when I hugged him goodbye. Soon I promised Weck go home soon. Our day in court arrived faster than expected. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, reviewed our evidence carefully. When Harold's recordings played, her expression darkened. This court is deeply disturbed by the evidence presented, she stated, tapping her pen against her desk. I am granting an emergency injunction freezing all HOA actions against any property owners pending a full investigation. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. Judith's face turned white. Tyler stormed out of the courtroom, while their lawyer frantically shuffled papers. That evening felt like the first real victory. With the injunction in place, I could finally bring my animals home. My neighbors helped clean up the property, repairing fences the HOA's tow trucks had damaged, watching Rusty race around the pasture with the goats while the chickens settled back into their coop felt like breathing again after nearly drowning. Eleanor brought homemade bread. Harold and his wife helped rebuild the chicken coop for the first time in weeks. I slept soundly. A loud crash jolted me awake. Orange light flickered through my bedroom window. Smoke filled my lungs as I stumbled to my feet. My barn was on fire. I screamed for my animals as flames lit up the night sky. My beautiful old barn crackled with fire, the heat pushing me back as I tried to reach the doors. I could hear Biscuit weeing in terror. Inside, neighbors appeared from nowhere, garden hoses in hand. Harold and 3 men from down the road smashed through the side door where the flames hadn't reached yet. I rushed in behind them, grabbing chickens, while they led the larger animals out. Sirens wailed in the distance as we got the last goat to safety. The fire department arrived with 3 trucks, working quickly to contain the blaze before it could spread to my house. My legs gave out, and I collapsed on the grass, counting my animals through tears. Everyone's safe, Eleanor said, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. Not a single animal lost. Fire Chief Williams approached as dawn broke. This was no accident, he said grimly. We found evidence of accelerant along the back wall. I think I know who did it, I whispered. So do I, he replied, pointing to my roof. Those cameras you installed after the towing incident, still working. My heart jumped. I'd completely forgotten about the security system my cousin helped me install. The footage was crystal clear despite the darkness. There was Tyler Mercer, hoodie pulled up, skulking away from my property at 3:42 a.m., a gas can in his hand. He even looked directly at one camera before disappearing into the woods that connected our properties. When the police arrived to review the footage, they brought something unexpected, a search warrant for the Mercer's home. Apparently, Margot's story had prompted someone inside the county offices to come forward with proof that Commissioner Phillips had been taking bribes. We found the matching gas can in their garage. Officer Rivera told me that afternoon still had traces of accelerant that matches what was used on your barn. We arrested both Mercers an hour ago. The news spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. Commissioner Phillips designed that same day, citing mysterious health concerns. The county board called an emergency session and voted unanimously to reverse the suspicious rezoning. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with supportive messages. Local businesses offered to donate materials to rebuild my barn. A contractor from 3 towns over volunteered his crew for the weekend. My grandpa had a farm. The developers pushed him off. He explained, not happening to anyone else. If I can help it. The criminal case against the Mercers moved quickly with the evidence mounting. Their lawyer pushed for a plea deal. They admitted to fraud, corruption, filing false documents, and arson. Tyler received 5 years in prison while Judith got 3 years plus probation. But something even more amazing happened within the estates itself. With the corrupt board removed, the homeowners called for a community vote. The results stunned everyone. They voted 87% in favor of dissolving the HO entirely. We bought homes here for the peaceful countryside, not to police each other's garden gnomes, explained the new neighborhood representative, a retired teacher named Martin. Most of us hated those silly rules anyway. The rebuilding of my barn became a community project. People I'd never met showed up with tools and food. Children helped paint the new walls bright red. Even the mayor came by, apologizing for the county's failure to protect longtime residents from predatory development. For months after the fire, the barn stood complete, bigger and better than before. We held a community picnic to celebrate, and over 100 people attended. Kids laughed as they fed carrots to my miniature ponies. Families gathered eggs from my chicken coop. Eleanor taught a group how to milk goats. The biggest surprise came when Martin approached me with an official-looking document. The homeowners of the former states took up a collection. He explained, we bought the Mercer's property at the county auction after it was seized. I stared at him, confused. We're donating it to be placed in a permanent land trust, he continued, as a community garden and animal therapy space. We hoping your ponies might be regular visitors. Tears filled my eyes as I nodded. 1 year later, my farm has transformed in ways I never imagined. The heritage apple trees I planted along my property line, now with permanent agricultural protection status, are beginning to blossom. Eleanor teaches gardening classes twice weekly in my eastern field. The former HOA clubhouse has become a weekend farmers market where I sell eggs and goat milk. Soap, the Mercer's massive corner lot, now hosts therapy sessions where children with disabilities ride my Gentle ponies. Seniors from the retirement home tend raised garden beds filled with vegetables. The sign at the entrance simply reads Willow Creek Community Farm, all welcome. Sometimes at sunset, I sit on my porch with Rusty beside me watching families stroll along the new walking paths that connect all our properties. Children stop to pet the goats or collect eggs under my supervision. You know what the funny thing is? Harold said to me recently, they wanted to kick you out to build more houses to sell their perfect community vision. Instead, they created something much better by bringing us all together to fight them. I smiled as I watched Biscuit give pony rides to 3 delighted children. The only community standard we need is posted right there, I said, pointing to the hand-painted sign by my freshly painted farm entrance. Be kind or leave.